Thank you for the invitation to, first of all, to join the conference and to be able to speak as well. It's very good to see the growing and the great initiative of use of BIM in Lithuania. I also visited some companies yesterday and some months ago, and I've seen their progress of BIM use. Hi. And it's very impressive. What I'm about to talk to you today, several of my colleague speakers has been mentioned. It's the VDC, Virtual Design and Construction. First of all, boring stuff about our company. We are about 1,000 employees. Our revenue is about 4 billion Norwegian kroner, which is about 70–80% of that is subcontracted. We certified the whole company, ISO certified 3 years ago. VDC fits very good into this philosophy. We are based in southern Norway and covers all the major trades, building construction, housing renovation, housing and property development, and infrastructure. Basically, I'm going to talk about building construction, which is where I work at. So, VDC, Virtual Design and Construction. It's formed and developed by SIFE at Stanford University in California. And it's actually, I don't know how to put it in one sentence, how it is. It's a complete way of developing, executing, planning, measuring constructions or construction work. If we try to describe it with a figure, we have the objectives, client, business, project objectives. We have the ICE sessions, which is a meeting technique. We have BIM, of course, and we have process and production management. Like, why are the client doing the project? What should the how should the building perform? What does the project team need to achieve? How is the project going to perform? And how are we going to do that? By using the process metrics. So if you have the driving questions on the left and the, I forgot the word, driving factors on the right side. So I'll try to take you through this by first give an example. This is an example of done by a general contractor in the US called DPR. They are one of the largest contractors or general contractors in the US, and they knows a lot about building hospitals. So they know how long it takes, how much it costs, and how to build it. By applying VDC on this project, they manage to build the whole scope on budget 30% faster than the market norm or standard. This is the results that they and the metrics that they had set up in front of the project, and this is the result that they got. $0 over cost. It's how many $1 million project, I'm not sure, but it's massive. There's not a single dollar over cost. And the schedule mark here, they beat that with 6 weeks ahead. But this schedule is the 30% included in the target, the 15th of November. That was the target, includes the 30%, and they beat that with 6 weeks, even if they had a 7-month delay of construction stuff. They qualified lead silver. They had no injuries, and they exceeded the time on work tasks by the major trades by 74%. Pretty amazing figures. When we come home, when we told our managers that this is possible, imagine what that will do with the market situation. If you are competing with a general contractor that builds 30% faster than you, what will that do to the market? Some more than the results, so drill down. Labor productivity by the major trades. Maybe this is even more interesting. It's the reduce of rework. It's down 50 to 95%. So that means that they build correct the first time, which is critical if you want to build faster and not spend more money. So, VDC at Kruse. 4 of us went to California last summer. Many of our colleagues was very envious. We went to California in the summer. That's fantastic. To be honest, it could be anywhere because we didn't see anything off the beaches or anything. It was hard work. But we were so inspired, and our manager and our company see that this works. So this year, last month, we hosted a similar course in Stavanger for all the industry, the local industry, 13 from our company and 12 from our co-workers. My first reaction coming home from California was that I was a bit disappointed, because I thought, being in Silicon Valley, I was going to come home with an iPad with just fantastic app that will just run the projects for me. Actually, they didn't speak of any technology. More like technology in a term, but this is more to gather the process, how to use your hours to, in a good way, combined with the technology that you already know. So what we say is that to us it's more like common sense built into a system. There's nothing revolutionary about it. There's nothing that you wouldn't think of was possible when you hear it. It's just the small pieces added together. I'm trying to explain by using the pilot that I'm a part of. It's a project for one of our most important clients. It's a co-location of public archives. For me, being an IT and BIM guy, it's very, very boring with paper archives, but that's what we are building. It's a huge project, but basically it's an office, and we have some archives in the basement. So if we go back to the VDC figure or VDC drawing, what does the client and business objective and project objectives, how can that help us? So what we have done is that we have defined objectives for the client and for the project. And the professors at Stanford always encourage us, use aggressive targets. Because if you have an aggressive target, you increase the focus. And if you have increased your focus, you increase your chance of success. So if you have been on a project that everybody, before they start the project, says, this project is very difficult because of this and this difficult situation, that is not the project that fails. The project that fails is the project where everybody thinks, this is a piece of cake, we just go out and build it. Maybe we draw it later. That's when you fail. So if you have aggressive targets, increase your focus and increase chance of success. And always do production metrics. You have a long-term objective at the end of the project, but you need to measure every week. How do you proceed? Very easy. Think of a runner setting a new world record running a marathon. He doesn't start and then 2 hours and 15 minutes later he knows, was it a success or not? He knows for every 100 meter, he knows where he's at. And make the objectives and your performance visual to everyone. Tell it out loud. I have an example in my local newspaper. There's a fitness pages, and they run a program where they are gonna get people more fit. And one of my neighbors signed up, and she was on the front page saying that today I've quit smoking and I'm gonna run this competition. Of course, everybody knows if she starts smoking again, because everybody has seen that in the paper. So it's visual, it's easier to keep it. If you stand in front of someone and promise that I'm going to do this, you will deliver. This is some of the breakthrough performance that Skeie has formed together. Skeie is financed by the industry, so all the members of Skeie has formed this as objectives for 2015. It should be possible. Imagine if you had a variance of your cost down less than 5% of every project. What would that do to your gross profit? What if you could tell any client that I can design your building within a year and I can build it within 6 months? Never exceed 18 months. I know a lot of clients that wouldn't dream of going to any other general contractors if we could say that. We are not there yet, but hopefully we can come back some years later and say that yes, we do that. And also the globalization, which is part of why we are here. We are looking at Lithuania as a very interesting market. And we have to be able to compete in our local market. So what about the Arkivenes Hus, the VDC pilot? When I asked my colleague to help me read through the presentation, he said, you might explain this first one. He's used to American contracts or projects, but in Norway we are always in a hurry. So we try to start building before we have designed everything, because we have such a hurry. I don't know about situation here around, but that's pretty normal. Okay, good. I've been to several conferences like this, and several speakers have asked the question, has anyone been on a project where everything was designed before they started construction? No hands here either. Kenneth has, my colleague. It's not done in our company, so that was before you joined us. Was it a good project, Kenneth? Was it a good project?
Absolutely.
How many times do you do it? Every project, okay. Because normally there's one guy, and he said, yes, we did it once in '84, and it was a fantastic project, everybody was happy, everybody made money, and why don't you do it again? Because we have such a hurry. We need to finish, so you need to put the digger on the ground. We will certify the building as BREEAM Excellent. I don't know if you know the term BREEAM, but it's similar to LEED, L-E-E-D, the English version. It's, I think it's the second highest level, which is quite aggressive. Of course, we're going to finish on time. Well, then our client, who has a background from mechanical, he said, I want this to be a target. The building shall be fully functional from day one. I don't know much about mechanicals, but I think, is that an aggressive target? I don't know. According to the client, he said he's never been in any project where this really is the situation. He's telling that they have buildings that has been operative for a year, and it still doesn't work as it should. So this is one of the targets. And we suggested to the client that we had an original tender for the job together with him, and we said we are going to run this as a VDC project, and we cut 10% of the cost. It's a turnkey contract. Someone in our office thought we were mad, gave away 10% of the contract. But this is a long-time client. We imagine that if we run this, save 10%, he will come back again and again. I know a lot of our competitors will lose 1 or 2 arms to be able to work with this client because of their way of running projects. So, what happens? Here is one of the targets. This is the cost objectives. This is measured every month. We have, we have the blue line representing the 10% cost over project duration. So we can't cut everything the first day. The red one is how we are performing at the moment. Not very good. It's going the wrong way. Actually, we were a bit late to get this graph up on the wall, but the first ice session that this was on the wall, the architect or someone had a suggestion for a solution, and then one of the other guys said, remember the graph. Remember which way the graph is pointing. That was not one of us saying that, that was the team. So just by adding this on the wall tells everybody how are they performing. And it's also divided up in all the major trades and their percentage of the total and how are they performing. Obviously, we need to cut cost on every trade. Or not cut cost, but we're going to find solutions that save cost. So far there's only 2 trades going the right direction. From what I hear, we just signed 2 new more subcontractors, which brings down the graph down to where it should be. So maybe next time I'll present the graph, you will see a different picture, I hope. Next thing, next major part of VDC is the ICE session. Some of you already mentioned it. Again, it's not hocus pocus. It's more like rocket science. Finally, rocket science is coming to the construction industry. It was developed by NASA in the late 90s due to their market threats from the European space programs. NASA had to do something to cut costs to still be in the business. So they developed this design process or meeting methodology and reduced early design development from 9 months to 3 weeks. That is pretty amazing. We haven't been able to do the same, but lately we had an architect saying that what we did here today in 5 hours normally takes us a month in a normal project. Just by doing a good ICE session, we saved him a month. So what is it? Again, no fancy stuff. It's just all the stakeholders co-located for active collaboration. It could be engineering, design, it could be planning. Everybody that can say something or mean something or maybe should have said something about your design or your plan together in one room. Why does that work? Because it dramatically reduces latency. I'll explain an example of latency later. And it has that drawback that it even improves quality. That's one of the questions I've got. How about quality? If you reduce design from 9 months to 3 weeks, it must, obviously, people think you will get a poor quality, but it's the opposite, in fact. So how do we achieve that? We have something called the big room, which doesn't have to be that big, but I'll show it. And you have to carefully plan and execute every session. If we speak about latency, let's say I'm a project manager. I email the brilliant architect about something that I need him to do or answer to. He's a bit busy, as they often are, so he can't come back to me straight away. So he replies within 2 days. And I read, sometimes I'm busy as well, so I respond the day after saying, this was not really what I asked for. And I have to send an email. He responds, and I'm fine. We are now up in 4 days. Maybe I see that I need to contact the structural engineer as well, and we are back in the loop. This could be a question that takes the architect 5 minutes to answer, to figure out a simple sketch, simple modeling task, whatever. Well, I think everybody here, been in a project, have experienced some kind of information loops and latency like this. By bringing everyone together around a table, if I ask the architect that question, I can immediately see the way he responds if he understood my question. And the structural engineer can pick up immediately when he answers or gives a suggestion, which then gives a dialogue. Maybe the plumber picks that up and gives another suggestion. So what I said, we didn't get any software at Stanford. What they gave us was a lot of templates, most of them in Excel. We took the templates and we modified them to, of course we had to translate them to Norwegian, and we modified them to suit our way of working. So this is how we plan an ICE session. First of all, well, let me take a little story about this. My colleague and I saw this for the first time, looked to each other and shake our heads, this will never work in our company. Do we have to plan everything? When are we going to work? That was our first reaction. After we had come home and we had thought about this, and we start to look at the templates and everything, and we discussed it, and then we said, okay, in a typical design meeting, you have like, it's not unusual to have like 10, 12 people. And let's say you sit there for one day, and everybody has a salary. Probably shouldn't say that here, but in Norway they have a salary about, how much would it be? 100 euros an hour, maybe more. If you add that up, it's a lot of money to spend on one day. And to use like 3/4 or 1 hour to plan that session, how am I going to spend that 15,000 euros? Seems like quite a good idea to me. And that's what we realized. So if we use this tool to first start with a meeting, what do we want to achieve? What's the focus? What's the purpose of this meeting? Again, it's not rocket science. In this case it is rocket science, but it's not difficult. If you have a desired outcome, put that on paper so everybody can see it. And it helps you plan the session as well. So when you then go to what task should we put on the agenda to achieve these desired outcomes that we have said, or the design team has said that we need to accomplish, to go on in the process. Then it's very easy to fill in the participants and their pre-session assignments. This is also very interesting because pre-session assignments, that's just like homework. But that's really needed to get good meetings. Everybody has to prepare, and they have to prepare on the right things, because otherwise you have to repeat that for everybody when you start the meeting. So by adding the pre-session assignment and a little trick in the end, I'll show you how you can make sure that everybody is prepared for the meeting. It's actually very easy. So what we do after the session, we evaluate all the tasks on the agenda. Did we achieve it or did we not? Or just partly? And use the colors that we all seen in Lean and everywhere. Everybody can understand, green, red, yellow. And if you don't achieve it, obviously you have to do some, maybe bring it up next meeting, or maybe assign it to someone to work on it later. And after that, you do an evaluation, but everybody in the design or the ICE session is asked what was really working for you and what did not. What shall we do next time? What shall we do more of next time, and what shouldn't we do more of? The plus delta. And then we ask a question to everyone. Do you, in your opinion, do you think the other contenders today was prepared for the meeting? That's the little trick I mentioned earlier. I have experienced this myself. It's very, very uncomfortable being the only one saying, yes, I think the others were prepared. The next time I made sure that I was prepared as well. But there is no sanctions. There is no punishment, there are no penalties, there are no dollars, or there are no cake to make for the rest of the team. It's just that saying, everybody's saying, you were not prepared. So when the meeting is about your trade, or you have a task that you want to solve, you want everybody to be as prepared as possible. Ergo, you have to work on that constantly to be prepared. But we have managed to keep this It was not that visible, but this says 100%. In fact, we discussed to stop measuring this because it was constantly on 100%. But then somebody said, of course it's on 100% because we measure it, and we make it very obvious. We also ask every contenders how meaningful and timely was the meeting, in your opinion, from 1 to 6. That is done to avoid that we ask participants who doesn't really interest or isn't really engaged in the team for that session, because then we need to plan it better. And we also ask them, how did you contribute to make the meeting as meaningful as possible? First, we started off by doing this by asking everyone. I ask you the 3 questions, we write it down. And Norwegians are very modest people. So when we started to use this as a closed vote, just had a paper with the questions, those figures equaled. Before that, everybody said, well, I didn't contribute that much, but the meeting was great. But now it's equal. So that's the main difference. So by just doing these measures and having a big room, as exemplified here, the picture is from our big room during a session. You need to have the visual aid at the front, central focal point. We have found that the ideal number of focal points is 3, because then we can have different comparison. We have an interactive smartboard, and we have projectors or screens just showing graphs and etc. So this is the measurement so far. Struggling in the beginning, as you can see with the blue line, or we call it magenta. We are up there on 100%. The disaster meeting here was trying to do a collaborative planning on BIM execution plan with the entire team. So we'll have to do that again with a smaller group and then present it to the team so everybody owns it. Everybody contributes and say, yes, this is how we're gonna do our project. How about BIM? Something magic happens when people stop asking why and rather ask how should I model. In this project we try to engage the vendors like the structural engineer and the engineering, based obviously on price but also on their engagement and involvement in use of new technology and the process. So we model everything. And you need to have it strongly integrated in the project management. BIM cannot be something that a guy or a girl do on a site, which is really cool, and they show the model and the collisions and everything. You need to integrate it in your production plan, in your design plan. BIM has to play a major part. As some of the speakers said, we will not speak about BIM in some years, I hope, because that's the way we do. Nobody speaks of CAD anymore. We just make drawings. Nobody will speak about BIM later, I guess. We just create projects, or we create buildings. And we design them using BIM, of course. During the kickoff of the project, the structural engineer was very aggressive and said we will not have any exchange of DBG or 2D drawings during design phase. All exchange should go through IFC. We also introduced the concept of level of development for each object, to be able to plan, to make a plan, what should the structural engineer deliver at that time, or what should the architect deliver at that time. So we made up this concept, not made up, but we introduced this concept, level of development. And we had like 3 levels, and we started asking, the structural engineer, what does level C mean to you? What does level B, etc. And all the trades asked the same question, and they had a pretty good feeling of what it meant to their trade and to their objects at a given time. And then suddenly the structural engineer said, it would have been really nice if the architect could provide this stamp on every object in the IFC file, so that when I see a wall that he has drawn, which is in conflict with my objects, I can see that this is only level C, so I know there's not much fault of it yet. It can still be moved. Or if it's level A, I know that this is finalized. I can't move this. This will cost a lot of money and a lot of cooperation. And the architect joined in and said, yes, it would be very interesting or useful for me to know the status of your column. Not just the 2D drawing of the entire level, but one single object. Maybe just one column has the status of A, which is finalized, and the rest is still in C. And everybody agreed that this was a good idea, so it was very easy for me to ask, is it this useful that you would consider to do that in your own model? Obviously, everybody had to say yes, and that's how we achieved to get that into the model. It was the design group's own suggestion to enhance their way of collaboration through our model. This is very useful when you try to describe the BIM execution plan. So what we've done here, it's very easy, isn't it? It's very clear. Well, it's a process map of what's going to happen during the design phase. What's it called? The skissefase. It's called design development phase. Early stages. And then we have agreed on some decision gates, which has a document attached to it, which is the information exchange. So we describe the architect is to deliver an IFC file containing these objects and this level of development for that stage, which makes it very easy for the BIM coordinator to do a design check, because he knows what to check for. It's very easy for the architect to deliver what he should deliver, and the structural engineer is told what to deliver. So this is a very complex structure, because there's a lot of development put into the BIM model, and to describe it all in a big, thick manual, the only result you will get that you will cure some cases of, some severe cases of insomnia. Nobody reads those thick manuals. So try to keep it simple, keep it small, because then it's a better chance for being fulfilled. Here's an example of the concept design reviews, which we really hadn't done in a formal way in our contracts before. We've done design checks where you look for errors. But design reviews is more telling the stakeholders, the client, the project, what options do we have. So the architects in this project is very good. They've never worked in an open BIM project before, but they delivered fantastic models. But this picture is from SketchUp. They have taken their SketchUp, or the ArchiCAD model, and they exported it out to SketchUp to do some quick mock-ups or quick studies of alternatives for the facade. So we gave the architect, or the project gave the architect the assignment of give us the 3 alternatives that you in your office think is the best options for this project. We took that in and we prepared our spreadsheets with 3 different materials to each design. And we also made some other criteria like LCC, LCA, prefabrication ability, etc., etc. HMSL, safety, health, safety issues. And we all discussed all those issues for all the 3, or the 3 times 3 options. And it was very, very easy for the client to go home with a spreadsheet with the 3 options. He had a picture of it, he has a SketchUp model to show in the office, and it was very easy for him to come back next day and say, okay, we go for this solution. So we think that we managed to get a better solution by presenting 3 options for everyone. And we also have the comfort of having all the others that we didn't choose documented and say, okay, we gave it a thought, but this is the best for the project due to all the factors. If you're not asleep already, you probably will do now. Process and production management. What can I say? Collaborative planning is crucial. Create a plan together with everyone, because then everybody understands, everybody has a chance to say, is this a good plan or not? And if you believe in the plan, you probably follow it. That's what we discovered. First phase of the project was very difficult to get them to plan, because nobody was really used to that people paid attention to what the architect meant about when they should design things. The structural engineer didn't believe in it because they was not used to that people cared about their design process. But once they understood that we really took them serious, we said, okay, the design period can go in this for this long. If you want to use the early stage this long and the detail phase this long, but you can't move the end date. You can pretty much use the time from start to finish as long as you lock the finish time. That was quite amazing because everybody is loyal to the plan. We have, I think we have an average of 95% complete at all time during design. But you also have to show them every session that you use the plan. So every session in the agenda, it is go through the agenda and link it to the schedule for design. And at the end, we talk about, we look forward to say, okay, next meeting, next week, what should we focus on? The entire design team is there and say, okay, we need to focus on the windows, or we need to focus on the elevators the next meeting. This is just a picture from the collaborative planning, which is very good when you can make this happen. Everybody, every trade, every company is in there, working together, figure out a plan, how to best serve the project. So if you have the philosophy at the end, integrate early, design your processes, pay attention to a process, because that's important if you're going to have a successful project. And model what you build, and build what you model, and really check that you did. Martin Fisher, which is the main man behind VDCs, told us about a project that they had in early stages. They have a discussion, what should they model? And this discussion had been going on for hours, just adding things. They ended up by reversing it and said, let's rather discuss what we shall not model in this project. They ended up with 3 little tiny parts, and they actually, well, what they agreed on, they should not model these 3 parts, otherwise they should model everything. And they ended up with doing 1.5 of them either way. So it's not about why, but how should you model. And of course, last planner is a crucial part, or lean construction is a crucial part of the construction phase. So this is how we understand VDC. Thank you.